My dear students, welcome back to the world of sociology. Have a nice morning. Myself, San Jose Thomas from the Department of Sociology, Sacred Heart College, Tevara. We have been dealing with positivism of Auguste Comte, with the major sociological theories these days, and today we will be continuing with the Comtean perspective, specifically with the theoretical perspective of Auguste Comte. I hope you remember whatever we discussed in the last class. Whatever was our area of understanding in the previous session, that was the Comtean theory or the Comtean methodology of positivism, to say in a better way. In this session, we will be dealing with the most important theoretical perspective, which is considered to be the major theoretical perspective of Auguste Comte, and that is the law of three stages. Many of you know that the law of three stages is considered to be the first theoretical perspective in sociology when we speak of the time period of the subject, when we speak of a dateline of the subject. This can be considered as the foremost and the first theoretical perspective when it comes to sociology, the law of three stages. Many of you know the background of Auguste Comte. Auguste Comte was a child of the French Revolution, and he was also a product of the tyranny of the French Revolution, and that was one important factor that prompted Comte to come out with a new science of society. So what would be the first theoretical perspective of this new science of society? Comte was very serious in understanding the Darwinian theory of evolution. When Sir Charles Darwin came out with the theory of evolution, there was an evolutionary paradigm, there was an evolutionary mechanism that was working with regard to the evolution of all organisms in the world. The Darwinian theory of evolution was definitely a source of influence, not only in the minds of the social thinkers of Europe, especially on the minds of the thinkers of France, including Auguste Comte. Though Comte never was a strong supporter or adherent of the Darwinian theory of evolution, Comte was serious enough to understand that the human mind, or to be more precise, the human thought, was also a product of some type of evolution, or the human mind was not the same before. It changed over a period of time, or rather it is in the process of evolution, rather it is going through subsequent stages of development, which Comte designated, which Comte identified by a name, by a theoretical perspective, that is the law of three stages. Many of you know the background of the Comtean identification or the Comtean development or contribution to this theoretical perspective. This theory actually can be considered as a threefold perspective that at the same time deal with human progress, number one, number two, with the progress of the human mind, no doubt, that is the progress of the human thought, and number three, definitely the progress of human society, how the human society has reached the present position. This was the Comtean area of analysis, or this was the area of interest of Auguste Comte. On this perspective, Comte came out with this law of three stages, who identified three stages of the evolution or three stages of the development of human thought. It is just like a child. Many of us during our childhood thought in a particular fashion, our mind developed in a particular fashion. When we reached our adolescence, when we reached our youth, we started questioning a lot of things. Our mind became more critical, our mind started changing or adopting a new idea, a new set of ideas or thought process. And when we became adults, that is the last stage or probably the third stage, we became more scientific, we became more rational, and our mindset again started changing. In the same fashion, we can say in the same line, human mind was also changing. In the same manner, human society, like a child becoming an adult, human society was also changing. That change was tracked by Auguste Comte into three stages, and they are, to be noted, please note, the theological stage being the first one, the metaphysical stage being the second one, and the scientific or the positive stage being the third one. Where to begin with? Definitely from the childhood, right from the child. That is the theological, or which can be considered as the first stage of the development of human thought. What are the characteristics of theological stage? Today we will be discussing the theological stage. Many sociologists used to say a lot of things about the theological stage of Auguste Comte. Let us be more precise. Let us be more objective. The theological stage was the first stage of the development of human thought, where everything was attributed to natural forces in the world. We know very well when man was born, when the human mind was evolving, man adored, man respected all natural forces and even attributed godly status, the status of gods, to natural forces in the world. Same thing is happening here, where natural forces started dominating the human mind, which we always used to call as fetishism. That is the right word we used to call as fetishism. This is a stage that is dominated by religion. This is a stage that is dominated by blind worship or blind following of the natural forces in the world. What are the natural forces? Maybe probably wind, probably fire, maybe probably water, maybe something else. All these natural forces started dominating the human mind, and this gradually, very slowly evolved into an organized religion, or which took, this is the Comtean theory, which took the shape of an organized religion. Automatically man started blindly following, man started blindly worshipping, man started developing a blind adherence to these natural forces, which in the long run shaped the nature of the metaphysical age. So you can think, obviously, if this stage is a stage of veneration of natural forces, if this stage is a stage of religion, who will be dominating this stage? No doubt, it will be dominated by military persons and by the priests. These two set of people were dominating the theological stage, which is a stage of God, which is a stage of religion, according to Auguste Comte. The stage was dominated by the priests, the stage was dominated by the military society, etc. So this was the first stage of human evolution, the evolution of human society, according to Auguste Comte. That is the theological stage. But the theological stage lasted for several centuries, and gradually, very slowly, man advanced. Man started moving, man started beaming himself towards the next stage, that is the metaphysical, or which can be rightly called as the next stage or the transitional stage of human evolution. Before dealing with the metaphysical stage, we need to understand some basic features of the theological stage. This was a stage of unquestioned acceptance. Whatever came to man, whatever he was taught with, whatever he was professed with, man accepted all these without even questioning. And naturally, everything was the priest come military leader. The entire society was controlled by people with arms, or the people with physical power, as well as the people with the power of the religion, or rather the people with the spiritual power. So priests dominated, and even the military in some societies, according to Auguste Comte, dominated this stage. So the same stage can be parallelly identified with regard to human mind. When we were children, we believed whatever our parents told. Many of you know, we believed whatever was being suggested to us. Same was happening in the human thought, in the human society also. Our society was also going through that initial stages of evolution, initial stages of development, where we blindly accepted, where we blindly followed, and we blindly adhered to whatever was placed, whatever was suggested before us. So this was the first stage. And what was the prevailing sentiment? That could be the last point when we discuss the theological stage. The prevailing sentiment, according to Auguste Comte, was love or affection, that dominated this particular stage. This was an affection oriented, this was a love oriented stage, where everything was fashioned in an affectionate manner, according to Auguste Comte. So that was the beginning. Again, a child, what would be the prominent value? What would be the prominent ideal that would be attracting a child? Probably it is love, probably it is affection. The child needs affection from everybody. The child unquestionedly accepts affection. Human society, human mind, and human thought was also in that same stage. That is the first stage. I hope you understood. I hope you had a clear-cut idea, a clear-cut glimpse about the first stage of human evolution, of human development, according to Auguste Comte. That is the theological stage. Have a great time. Thank you, students.